that this is only a new form of the unknown compound is a vague statement. And then the IP goes ahead and says, it is only when the pleadings show how the invention is one kind of a derivative of known substance, the patentee will have to explain how the grant of patent is justified because the enhancement of efficacy of therapeutic efficacy. So in that particular case, on the 27th day of July 2013, the IPAB said, in this case, the pleadings are not adequate. The applicant has not proved how this invention is hit by Section 3D, and that is why we feel that the Section 3D ground has not been proved. Now the question is, does this also apply to the Indian Patent Office? If someone who wants to challenge it has to prove, does the examiner or the Indian Patent Office not required to clarify how Section 3D applies? Because unless that is clarified, how is the applicant supposed to know what the examiner is thinking about? So typically what we get in the examination report is, claims of the claimed invention fall within scope of Section 3D of the Patent Amendment Act, or claims 1 to 20. And these are some of those objections which I have picked up from different applications and pasted over here, because I have not changed the word in any way at all. So when someone sees that these statements, how is the applicant, especially if the applicant is in a foreign country, how can he imagine, speculate what exactly is expected of the applicant? And then the poor applicant tries to the best of his knowledge, try to get the best, closest prior art, and then tries to prove that it is reduced clearance or less toxicity or whatever. And then the patent office says, well, no, we want enhanced efficacy. The question is, whether Section 3D actually applies or not has to be first evaluated. And only then enhancement of efficacy or other criteria has to be proved. And that is what is not happening at the Indian Patent Office. For it to be revoked, for it to go to the next level, it has to be first granted by the Patent Office. If the controller is going to reject this application right at the examination stage, the applicant at the revocation stage will not have to prove and plead at all. So the onus here also lies also with the applicant as well as with the Patent Office to ask and to provide more information on why Section 3D is being applied, especially in relation to new chemical entities. So this was what I felt was very important. In spite of this decision on the 27th day of July 2013, recently in October 2014, we say that we find that there are certain objections which are still the same. For example, in this 1886 movement P 2010, I discussed about the Delhi Patent Office decisions over there. Now there are also decisions in the Mumbai Patent Office. And here it says there were deficiencies on free deficiency and obviousness and Section 3D. And the controller decision says agent's observations are carefully considered. However, para 3 of this office letter is not properly met, which means that the Section 3D objection has not been satisfied. And the 1-5 compounds claimed in the claims 1 to 8 fall within under Section 3D of the Patent Act and therefore not allowable. When we look at the structures, here again we see that they are structurally, they may be close, but they are not the same. And if they are not the same, it's not a known substance. It is a new substance. And Section 3D does not apply to a new substance, it applies to a known substance. And here, the applicant had also mentioned in the submissions, compounds are different. They are not the same, and Section 3D does not apply at all. And that is as recent as October 2014. And there was no statement from the Patent Office regarding obviousness. The only statement was that para 3 of the office action not satisfied, Section 3D is not satisfied, patent not granted. So, and why do they say that? There was also logic to what was said, and the controller had come up with this decision. It says, as the prior art D1 discloses the compound of general formula so and so as defined alleged claim, wherein the limitation is restricted to R1 is hydrogen, chloro, cyano, and so on. It says, therefore, the fluoroalkoxy substituted on the phenyl ring of the basic skeleton. I'll just go back to the basic skeleton. If you look at the left-hand side, the fluoroalkoxy, it says, the fluoroalkoxy substituted on the phenyl ring of the basic skeleton, which amounts to a derivative of the phenyl ring of D1. Therefore, the derivative compounds are not allowable under section 3D. Now, interestingly, if we go by this logic, every new chemical entity is supposed to be a derivative. Everything has to be a derivative because the controller just picked up one portion of the whole moiety and it says that, okay, this is supposed to be the fluoroalkoxy substitution on the phenyl ring of the basic skeleton amounts to a derivative of the phenyl ring. So we can't go anywhere from there at all. I mean, everything has to be a derivative, every new entity has to be a derivative. So this is as new as October 2014. So if I have a few more minutes, I'll just quickly go to how it works in the pharma industry. Now, all those who are in the pharma industry will know that the drug development process takes a long time. It would take, 10 to 12 years. And when you come up with a candidate decision, when you come up with a product which would be a blockbuster, which you feel would be a blockbuster, and once you patent it, it does not mean that the research is over. There are going to be follow-on compounds. And every follow-on compound probably would be very close structurally to the one which you have already patented. It would not be the same, it would be close. And that is why it's a follow-on compound. It's not a candidate, it's a follow-on compound. So that is how the research goes on in drug discovery companies. But the question which could come up in India and which we see is now happening at a patent office is, suppose there's a compound A which is a candidate, for which the patent application ABC1234, which has been filed on 1st of January 2013. Before 18 months have elapsed, there is another follow-on compound which is to be patented, compound B, for which the patent application is XYZ5678. The filing date is 1st March 2014, before the 18 months of publication. The compounds A and B are structurally similar but not the same. Applicant is the same because the research is being done by the same company, same inventors probably, and the same group of inventors. Question is, would this first patent be considered as a prior art, especially for section 3D purpose in India, because both are being done by the same company, and in spite of the fact that the second application is filed even before the first application has been published in India. If we look at other jurisdictions, if we look at other jurisdictions, if we look at Europe, this might be something which could be looked at for the purpose of novelty or anticipation. But as I mentioned in that case which we are looking at, these are follow-on compounds. It cannot be the same compound. It's not going to be anticipated. So under Article 54(3) of the EPC, there might be an objection where it can be considered as a prior art if the role will be the same. But for obviousness, it is not going to be considered. Section 3D, we know is not applicable in other jurisdictions, so there's nothing on Section 3D in Europe or in the US. A similar situation in the US would be pre-AIA. It might have been the case, but post-AIA, we see that it can be considered for novelty under 102A2 if it is before the 1 year grace period. But in this particular situation wherein the same company goes on with the research, the inventor will be the same. So the entity would be the same. So under the AIA, it is not considered as a prior art for novelty if the subject matter disclosed and the claimed invention not later than the effective filing date of the claimed invention were owned by the same person or the same entity. So even in the US, if there's a follow-on compound which is going to be filed at the USPTO, this would not be considered as a prior art because it is filed by the same entity. When we come to India, in India under Section 13, if it is claimed again, if it is claimed in any of the claims, the claim of any other complete specification before that, so if it is filed earlier, published later, but if it is specifically claimed, then there might be an objection on the based on anticipation, but we can also overcome that. For obviousness, it's not going to be considered because there is no reference of this being considered in the Indian Patent Act. But then we come to the point, if it is not going to be considered for anticipation, it is not going to be considered for obviousness. Naturally, it should not be considered for section 3D also. But what happens is that we find that nowadays there have been a certain trend at the Indian Patent Office wherein such applications, which is for a follow-on compound by the same company, but maybe the same inventors, is taken as a prior art, especially for section 3D. And what is being told is that, okay, maybe others did not know about it, but you knew about it. You are the inventor of the first patent. So if you knew about it, then this becomes a prior art, and then because it is a prior art, it is structurally similar, so section 3D applies. This is something wherein there is an extrapolation of section 3D, trying to invoke section 3D where it actually is not. Because when we look at certain other decisions of the Indian Patent Office, wherein section 13 was tried to be invoked, it has been mentioned in some cases, for example, 3649, wherein it was mentioned, since the subject matter claimed in the present application is different from the subject matter disclosed in the Indian patent application, the prior art, section 13 is not applicable. So even if it is not the same, it is similar, then section 13 is not applicable. But we see that in spite of that, we find in India, those who have been prosecuting application at the Indian Patent Office, this seems to be a problem at this point of time. Hopefully it won't be later, and hopefully things will change, and we find that objections which are taken for section 3D would be actually based on section 3D, and then we'll come to know that section 3D is not that bad. It can be overcome for certain new chemical entities, for derivatives and for salt, it would apply, but then it would be less of a difficult task as it is out of date. So with this, I thank you for your time and attention. Thank you.
So that was a very interesting presentation, and I think the issues raised in the presentation going forward have all the makings of a very sophisticated debate. And I think section 3D itself, leaves the issue open, the issue which you just raised, because at least one example of substance listed in the explanation to section 3D is a structurally dissimilar compound known in the prior art, namely when ester was known in the prior art, then that's hit by section 3D. Isomers are a little more difficult to answer whether it's structurally same or not, but if you consider that three-dimensional orientation in space creates a difference structurally, then even that is an example of a structurally different compound known in the prior art, which is hit by section 3D. But some of these cases do seem to stretch the logic a little too far. I do agree with that.
Can I just make a request to Walter?
Yes.
Since there is a joint working group engaged by US government and Indian government to find some way out on 3D specifically. Because once the 301 report was submitted by USTR, then lot of in June 2014, then there are some cyclical report was submitted, and now joint working group is trying to find. And you mentioned a very, very fine difference between what is the known substance and new substance. When JMC or the ITEC take initiative to put forward this critical issue before the government. So can we get some sort of very 2-3 pages working note on this?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So that
because,
this
yeah.
is a burning issue now.
Yeah, so you've
So I'll just make
raised
it-
a very question of policy, and
Yeah.
not only of
And
policy
this
but
issue,
also of law.
in the
So-
on the 17th, probably there is a technical session on the IPR policy,
Right.
where I am also one of the panelists,
Right.
and Dr. Ganguly will also be there.
Right.
So before that, if you can give it, we can
Sure.
take it up there also.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, to make it more, meaningful for the IPR policy perspective.
Right, absolutely. So I'd like to next invite Dr. Abdullah, who is currently with Daichi Sankyo make his presentation.
Where is the presentation? Where is the presentation at? Okay, it's there. Okay. Ready for giving. I think it's the CV. Where is it?
After.
All of you had a great lunch and an excellent post-lunch session. I'm sure Rahul made sure that with the pitch that he was speaking at and the passion that he had, nobody would fall asleep. I'll try and do a little bit of the same. My topic is about commonly asked questions on Indian patent law, especially by foreign companies. And I'll be focusing on different issues, making it a general one. Any questions are you're most welcome to ask. A lot of speakers since the morning have addressed about the increasing trends or the different trends that we've seen. Last year or the year that we have trends for about 43,000 applications in India. Most of them filed by non-Indian companies. About 75% were filed by non-Indian applicants, and that raises a question that there's always that need for Indian professionals to connect with foreign clients in terms of different applications that are being filed world over. How the Indian Patent Office asks for, and the Indian Patent Act asks for more information